From Stories Gardening Skills Illustrated, Secrets to Great Soil by Elizabeth P. Stell, a grower's guide to composting, mulching, and creating healthy, fertile soil for your garden and lawn. A copyright 1998. Introduction. I've never outgrown a child's simple love of dirt. It has continued to fascinate me since those early days of mud pies and simple earthworks. After studying at a university level, I learned to respect its complexity and call it soil. Years of gardening have taught me how resilient it is. The more I learn about soil, the more marvelous and magical it seems. My first attempts at soil improvement were accidental, but astonishingly successful. In a fit of environmental enthusiasm in my early teens, I decided our tidy suburban house needed a compost bin. My parents weren't exactly receptive. They vetoed a bin, but were persuaded to let me try trench composting. I wasn't even thinking of the soil, just of recycling kitchen scraps. With great enthusiasm but weak arms and a dull shovel, I started my project. No luck. Our Maryland clay soil was baked so hard by summer sun that a shovel simply bounced off. I had no idea soil could be so hard. I had yet to see the adobe-like soils in the Southwest. Later, after softening rains, I tried again with better results. I dutifully emptied kitchen scraps into the trench, covering each addition with a bit of soil. I filled the trench before winter and forgot about it until spring. When I dug around to see what had happened, I couldn't believe my eyes. Loose, crumbly, easy-to-dig soil with lots of earthworms I hadn't seen before. The dark soil between my fingers seemed completely unrelated to the light-colored stuff that had resisted my shovel only a few months before. My parents were impressed too. The conclusion was simple. Soil is magical stuff, yet the alchemy for transforming stubborn clay into lovely loam is surprisingly straightforward. Sidebar: the fertile place. We all live lives full of compromise. Some work day jobs, sitting behind desks, secretly waiting to come home and renew ourselves in the garden. Others have made gardening our livelihood, but find the demands of business have distanced us from hoe and spade. It is a balancing act, we tell ourselves, but how do we achieve and maintain that balance? The earth is a grounding force in our technological lives, our garden havens from ever faster pace. That which we create around us is a mirror of who we are inside, and a fertile place for our minds to grow. Michael Abelman, National Gardening, 1997. Rescuing soil on a larger scale. About the same time, I discovered a copy of Malabar Farm on my grandparents' bookshelf. Louis Bromfield reached a conclusion similar to mine from efforts on a much larger scale in the 1940s. He bought an Ohio farm whose soil was so badly eroded that most of the topsoil was completely gone or marred by large gullies. Though once productive, the farm had been abandoned. After years of failure to replenish organic matter and mismanaged fertility, it could no longer produce decent crops. Bromfield transformed his fields by incorporating as much organic matter as possible as rapidly as possible. He built up the soil with animal manures and green manures, crop rotations that included pasture and judicious use of lime and synthetic fertilizers. He controlled erosion on sloping fields by growing cover crops rather than leaving the soil bare over the winter, and by plowing along the contour rather than straight up and down. He grew strips of sod between strips of easily eroded crops, such as corn. Improvements were visible after only a year or two. Yields increased greatly. Corn yields doubled or tripled in 4 years, and in some fields, wheat yields increased almost tenfold. Every year, fewer pests and diseases bothered the field and the garden crops. By the 5th year, insecticides were no longer needed, even though the occasional pest was still seen. The animals, fed directly from the farm on pasture, silage, or field crops, became noticeably healthier. A laboratory analysis of the farm's alfalfa showed it was especially high in nutritious minerals. A nearby stream, muddied with soil washed from the fields, became clear again. During the drought of 1944, when farmers all over Ohio were hauling water, the springs on Malabar Farm were still flowing because all of the erosion controls had allowed rain to seep into the soil and recharge long-term water reserves. Sidebar. The power of transformation. There is no satisfaction like watching the earth grow richer because of what you do with it. The change in the very landscape from one of abandoned fields, gully desolation of hills brown and red with sorrel and broom sedge, to green has been remarkable, a steady darkening color of the soil as the fertility rose, with gains in production ranging from 50 to 1,500% per acre. Lewis Bromfield, Malabar Farm, 1947. Why should you become a soil steward? The easiest, most dramatic way to improve any garden is to improve its soil. Efforts to enhance your soil will give you quick results in your garden, as well as long-lasting benefits. As you build up your soil, it will become crumbly and easy to dig. You'll be rewarded by healthy plants that look better and produce better, even when subjected to weather quirks such as drought or cold spells. You can also significantly reduce your pest problems and your use of pesticides by building up your soil. Healthy soil just does a better job of producing healthy plants. Vigorous and healthy plants have greater ability to fight off pests and infections, just as you have an easier time fighting off cold or flu when you're in excellent health. Fewer insects and diseases in the garden means you handle fewer pesticides and end up with fewer pesticide residues in your garden vegetables and fruits. Soil improvement benefits the environment in other ways too. Recycle garden and kitchen waste into compost, you'll reduce your trash at the same time you reduce your need to buy fertilizer. Healthy soil needs less irrigation water to nurture plants, so you can cut back on water use. Tests have shown that organically grown produce contains more nutritious minerals and less sodium than produce grown by traditional methods. Traditional agriculture can get high yields by using lots of fast-acting NPK fertilizers, even where the soil isn't so great. That's because it resorts to a wide array of pesticides to control the resulting pest problems. Quality of the produce suffers in invisible ways, though. Even without considering pesticide residues, the high yields on mediocre soil are achieved at the expense of mineral content and sometimes even protein quality. For instance, experiments have shown that the insecticide Parthenon greatly reduces vitamin C, ascorbic acid content of spinach. And according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture soil scientist Sharon B. Hornick, grains such as wheat and barley grown in high levels of synthetic fertilizers may contain plenty of protein, but it's not good quality protein. In fact, the amino acids are out of balance, so humans can't make use of all of it. High levels of nitrogen fertilizers have also been shown to reduce levels of vitamin C in vegetables such as kale. Sidebar. Good nutrition. Feeding your plants well will improve your own diet. Conversely, growing fruits and vegetables on depleted soils reduces their nutrient content. Soils low in minerals required by humans produce fruits and vegetables with low mineral content. Soils with too little phosphorus, potassium, or magnesium reduce vitamin C content. Soils with too little nitrogen, iron, copper, or molybdenum reduce vitamin A, beta-carotene content. Secrets to great soil. Soil is surprisingly complex, but improving it is surprisingly simple. As I learned early on, dense clay can be transformed to crumbly loam simply by burying kitchen scraps and waiting. I've even converted a gravel driveway into a productive vegetable bed. A few years ago, I realized that a former driveway was the best sun exposure our tree-lined yard had. A dairy farmer friend supplied a truckload of ancient manure, and my husband mixed this into the packed gravel with our ancient rototiller. I sifted out the gravel from a few cartloads, but soon lost patience to sift any more. Our new vegetable garden had more sand and gravel than my other beds, but then I'm used to stone after gardening in New England hillsides. While I grow my carrots elsewhere, I grow great potatoes, onions, and other vegetables in this former driveway. Your soil probably isn't as extreme as baked clay or gravel driveway. By using this book, you can improve any soil from coastal Californian sand to southeastern clay. Secrets to Great Soil shows you how to play detective to uncover what you've got and why your soil is the way it is. Learn your NPKs and how to choose the best fertilizer to supply these other nutrients. Discover tools to make your work easier. Find out how many different ways there are to make compost, plus other easy options for supplying organic matter, the cure-all for soil. Learn strategies for problem sites and tips for tailoring any soil to suit your needs, from lawn to trees to container gardens. Seasonal reminders are included in handy soil care calendar. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned gardener, you'll find what you need here to nurture your patch of earth.